Hello YouTubers, Jason here as part of my wife's and my ongoing efforts to establish energy independence. We completed installing a Yodel 50 Rangeley yesterday, the 19th of December, and I'm going to go over some of the features and interesting items that we learned about this process quickly. We're getting a sense of the kind of wood that we need and can use. We're using mixed pine and oak, mostly because we can get a lot of it for free by way of pallets that people are getting rid of. Again, part of the sustainability ethic. Specifically in terms of the stove's performance, we were informed by a gentleman who helped us install this that running these stoves between 400 and 700 degrees is ideal. If anyone has better information, certainly post it in the comments. And this infrared thermometer is showing you by way of the laser spot where it's hitting is about the size of a quarter, and showing you temperature in Fahrenheit of that surface around the stove. Heat shields seem to be working just as they should. Double wall piping also seems to be working brilliantly. This stove has been running all night, and we peaked out at probably about 600 degrees, burning some oak chunks and at full roar. You can see here our wall spacing in the United States for anyone watching in Canada or internationally. We're allowed with this particular shield here, now I'm just going to use a laser as a pointer, we're allowed 5 inches from the wall. We opted for about 9 inches if we don't have this heat shield, but as with any installation, some of the most important aspects are included in the owner's manual and installation manual. So back on the wall here, you can see the emissivity about 0.95, and that covers the bulk of what we'll be looking at, showing about 120 degrees, which is a nice comfortable temperature for us. Kindling temperature, for those of you that don't know, is about 800 degrees Fahrenheit. And correct me if I'm wrong there, but I'm pretty sure. I'd have to check the Google to be absolutely certain. But all the back wall is in great shape, and even this heat shield here is below the boiling temperature. We're up here high in the Rockies, well above 5,000 feet, and we installed a Lyons sandstone hearth that's retaining quite a bit of heat by way of its attributes as a thermal mass. So that's of great benefit to us as well. We chose the Lyons sandstone to particularly support the local community that was heavily impacted by the recent floods. So I'm going to take you upstairs to show you the through wall penetration. And I've got some further insulating to do, but that'll occur this afternoon as quickly as possible, as it's about 20 degrees outside. So we opened up this knee wall in our bedroom, and you can see the triple wall stovepipe. There's a shield for insulation that I will be putting back in. Here's some of the bats. It's a little bit dark, but hopefully you can see back in there. Probably not. And temperature, I'm not sure what the emissivity is on stainless steel. This is showing about 80 degrees at 0.95, and I suspect that the emissivity is lower than that. Going to the galvanized steel is showing on the wall strap 74, galvanized again, ducting 63. A little bit suspicious of that, mostly because it's warm to the touch, not hot to the touch, which is as we would expect. And then you can finally see the shielding that goes through the roof to the outside. So I'll need to pack in the insulation back here, just screen to keep rodents out. And this all is enclosed in in a chase in the knee wall. This house was designed to have a wood burning stove when it was first built, so our straight shot from the stove up through the roof managed to make it right between these two roof rafters, which is great. Anyone building a new house, please consider the advantages of energy independence with regard to installing a wood burning stove. We sized the stove to be about the same output as our home furnace, and we went through a number of iterations and looked at it from a number of different angles because some BTU output ratings are significantly less accurate than others. But generally speaking, the installation was successful. The stove is, the chimney pipe is drafting beautifully. The stove is running wonderfully, and we're able to verify all of that with this quite handy DeWalt infrared thermometer. It has its limitations, of course, particularly with regard to emissivity and that's basically the reflectivity of the surface that you're testing. But for what we're doing here, it gives us a great indication of where the hot spots are and what to be careful of. It's also great in terms of doing a home energy audit, relatively inexpensive, and certainly not as useful as an infrared camera, but also of great benefit. What this allows us to do, the wood burning stove, is to augment our energy usage by way of what isn't being supplied with these solar panels. We have about a kilowatt capacity here and another kilowatt capacity over here on this accessory building. However, the sun in Colorado in the winter is quite low on the horizon, and that first awning that I showed you, installed by the previous owner, was intended to simply be that, an awning, and not optimized for either direction or angle. So we may at some point opt to take those panels and put them on a single axis tracker to better make use of their potential. Previously, we were using quite a number of electric space heaters in an attempt to kick the fossil fuel habit. There's a lot of gas provided in our community. I'm going to show you quickly our energy usage as tracked by the solar panel system. So this solar monitoring software is directly linked by way of Hall effect sensors to the house main breaker. And you can see that our current output from the solar panels is about 400 watts, while our current usage is about 700 watts. And I'll just give you a sense of historically what some of our trends are. This is looking at about a 3-hour spread. If I go back to 6 hours, you can see some of these peaks all the way up to and over 3 kilowatts. This particular peak here, I think, is my wife running the dishwasher. This peak, I think, is a combination of some of our space heaters coming on and our hot water heater, electric hot water heater. The drop off in this shelf is me getting up first thing in the morning, seeing that the stove is running beautifully and shutting off at least one of our electric space heaters to conserve electricity. We set the thermostat for the house at 60 degrees. So if we're away and the wood burning stove burns out, we won't risk freezing pipes. And that furnace is gas powered. So our primary effort is we've got a buffer from a comfortable 70 degrees for us, 68 degrees. We've established a comfortable buffer to be able to work with the output of the wood burning stove while staying above the kick-in of the Again, largely because we don't want to use gas. The impact of hydraulic fracturing is too much. But if we don't make choices in our life, otherwise, then we will continue to get what we ask for as consumers. So you can see this larger band of consumed electricity when we were almost totally running on space heaters. The installation of the wood-burning stove occurred throughout this period of time when we first started really running it here, so you can see that ramp off. I'll back out to some much colder days that we experienced up here in the Rockies. And when I say colder, I'm speaking to about -4, even -12. And that occurred, the -12 occurred in this particular valley here, if I remember correctly. Let me move out another 2 weeks. Yes, I believe it was this particular valley here. We lost power for a period of 6 hours in the middle of the night. And the implications of that for someone that only has an electrically ignited and an electrically forced furnace means you don't get heat. So the house temperature began dropping. It's relatively well insulated. We have 6-inch studs with I forget the acronym, the IP structurally engineered beams that are about a 9-inch web with R30 through the ceilings and probably about R30 insulated bats through the walls. So it's relatively tight, certainly could be better, and at some point we'll probably do an energy audit. But in this particular valley here, and there's no data here obviously because when the power goes out so does our power monitoring equipment, but this certainly woke us up to the incredible importance of this guy. So sizing this appropriately, again based on the information from our furnace, looking at square footage in the region that we're in, simply asking people that have more experience, we came up with, max output on this I believe is about 83,000 BTUs, which is pretty close to what the furnace puts out anyway, because you don't want to cook low and slow if you oversize the stove, and you don't want to overfire your stove if you undersize it. So getting the appropriate size stove is certainly important, and hopefully will get us to the point where we are generating in this house more power than we consume. That's the ideal situation, and we're getting closer. We first moved in here, I'll go out all the way a month. We've been here almost a month. This is the point where we moved in. You can see this spike is us plugging in all of our electric space heaters, big power outage, cold temperatures. These individual peaks here are the solar system's output, so considerably less than what we were drawing. Big spikes when we turn on the dryer, big spikes when we turn on the electric stove, and then also no green here you see when obviously cases like snow falling on the panels prevents us from collecting any solar energy. So from an average of about, I'd say 4.5 kilowatts usage during extremely cold times, we're running a number of space heaters at about 1,000 watts apiece. We were able to drop off rather significantly now these last few days, and I'll zoom in again on let's say the last 4 days, and you can see how that began to taper off from a high point over here of approximately 5 kilowatts. Again, average usage of about 3.5, continually dropping until we get this stove installed, and now it's dropped off precipitously. So that's tremendously encouraging, and we're awfully close to being able to exceed our usage by way of generation, and it is thanks in wintertime to this guy, which also doubles as a cook stove. We can cook food, heat water for tea, which my wife, being English, is particularly keen to, and of great advantage, being in the Rockies with so much beetle kill, take advantage of pine in our national forest at $20 a permitted cord, and then also some wood around the property. But we've committed to not using the wood around the property in the event there's an emergency. Typical survival protocol for collecting firewood is to collect the firewood further, as far as you can travel, really, under healthy and ideal circumstances. In the event that you fall ill or your means of travel are greatly diminished, such that you need the very close, easy, low-hanging fruit. So we intend to keep all the firewood we have on the property for as long as we can, to prepare for such a possibility, and then collect and or buy firewood as we go. And then also, of course, collecting pallets, which are great for a mixed pine oak. You do have to be careful, tremendously careful, with the nails, using your chainsaw, so cutting chunks that'll fit in the stove, but also not nicking a blade, because then that would make it cost prohibitive. So this is some details about our installation of this particular stove, why we did it, the impact that it has on our lives, and setting aside the economic considerations around energy usage, the ethical considerations around alternative forms of energy and heating a house. I'm still a huge proponent of electricity because our grid will quickly be greening with fascinating new technologies that come online. However, since we're not yet there, taking advantage of this ancient technology draws us all back 10,000 years to sitting around a hearth or sitting around a campfire and simply being drawn into the heat, the warmth, and then also the community that typically gathers around a fire like this. And it's quite a beauty to behold. So we chose to put ours as a centerpiece in our living room, and the television will become a secondary thought. And that was intentional. At one point we had thought about putting the television here, and I'm glad we did not, because we discovered that the house was designed to have a stove here. But then also the statement of this being the most important component of our house in terms of energy independence, community connectivity, and then also just the aesthetic, overriding what culturally has become a centerpiece. And I think we need to step away from this. There's wonderful things that come across this guy in terms of sharing information, in terms of seeing what the rest of the world is up to, and simply in terms of entertainment. However, when we become addicted to what that stream of media compels us toward, directing our consumer choices and other decisions, then we become a very dumb and docile population and culture. And I'm seeing more and more of that, particularly around the industries that saw fit to stay open on Thanksgiving, meaning all their employees were working on Thanksgiving in order to support that consumerist lifestyle. And a lot of that compulsion, a lot of that impetus comes from this guy, constantly being bartered with commercials and other things. This one heats us, feeds us, gets us outside to collect firewood. This one, to some extent, informs us and entertains us, but doesn't do any of what I consider much more fundamental human practices. So another reason why we're putting this to the side. It doesn't leave our house. We don't have cable, but we do take advantage of movies and videos quite frequently for the entertainment value. But so far, recently, this has been of greatest entertainment value to us. Simply staring into the flame is quite a comforting and pleasant experience. So for all of you that have the capability in your local communities to install a wood-burning stove in the event of emergency, even a small one, if that's all that you can afford or are able to put in, I highly recommend it. And the benefits are well beyond economic. So that's all I have. If you have questions or are curious about the process that we're involved in, then please feel free to comment in the comment section. Just another look here at and resistance heat, internal resistance heat like this. But for now, I certainly like reaching back to the dark ages of caveman and cavewoman, gathering, hunting, and remain connected in a subtle way to that lineage, while not forgetting that some of the technologies that we take advantage of are of wonderful use to us. As I end with this MacBook Air that incidentally was refurbished for those that question the building ethic of, or the manufacturing ethic of places like China, particularly at Foxconn, where folks are chucking themselves off of buildings to commit suicide. The intent was to take advantage of the most efficient computing device I could find, and this thing runs on I think the last figure I saw was about 3 to 5 watts an hour average over the course of 24 hours. So about the energy consumption of a smartphone, which was stunning to me. I ran it for, about a week on a kilowatt, just normal use throughout the day, and it averaged out to about 3 to 5 watts per hour. So wonderfully efficient and supremely advanced. It doesn't cook and it doesn't keep me warm, but it does keep me connected to folks like you sharing fascinating ideas with our life. And I'll end this shot with a great image outside the back window of sun streaming through the front side of our solar panels that are collecting the energy that we use to make these videos and then also to share them with you. So blessings to all in this holiday season. Stay warm, stay informed, and continue to share your ideas.